Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and yep, they're going down that rabbit hole again. I mean, it's not like it's gonna get any worse from here, right? So for today's weird-ass game is gonna be on the PSP, and that happens to be Cho Aniki 0, or Cho Aniki 0, or whatever you want to consider that thing to be. So the game was developed by Malaysia. Yes, I finally remembered how to say that name out loud with that funky font, and the game was published by Gung Ho. And it was released in 2009, and believe it or not, this actually got a North American release, but it was digital only. So what is this Cho Aniki series exactly? Well, in case you don't know, which you probably don't, I actually reviewed one of the games many years ago on my channel. It was the one on the PS1. And believe it or not, it actually got released on PSN as a PS1 classic, which is so bizarre to think about, but I mean, hey, at least they gave us something, right? So it's a series of shoot-em-ups which are a very acid trip and really what the fuck. Except for the first game. That game was like a fighting game on the Super Famicom, but it was still what the fuck though. So as of now, this is the very last game in the Cho Aniki series, and it has 0 in the title, because you know how many games have 0 in it. So I figured that I would finally finish what I started many years ago, because why the fuck not? So anyways, let's talk about the game's story. So after the heroes have defeated the evil emperor, Balzac, yes, I'm not even joking, his name is Balzac, yeah, it's like, well, you know. Well, apparently right after that, something else is draining the protein from all the planets, and that happens to be Balzac II. And now you're probably thinking, oh, they can't be serious, like, they can't actually name a character Balzac that sounds like Ballsack. Well, here's the thing about this, is that the publisher of this game did not really do a good job, like, translating it, so the original name was supposed to be the Evil Emperor Body. Well, that's still a stupid as fuck name, but Balzac, though, like, God, it almost reminds me of Arzak from The Last Battle on the Sega Genesis, but only that this one is even worse. So the two heroes have to go fight him off again, and yeah, that's basically all you need to know, and well, yeah, it's as dumb as it sounds. And of course, the two main heroes you get to use are, Itiden, who looks like he has like muscles on top of muscles, and then you got Ben-10, who looks like Hatsune Miku if she was on steroids. So there you have it. If you really cared about the story in your shoot-em-up games, then, well, that's basically what you're gonna get with this one. So, onto the gameplay. So this one is a side-scrolling shooter, just like the first one that I played before. And as you would expect, you shoot weird shit, while weird shit shoots at you. But one feature that I do like is that you can actually turn your character around and start shooting backwards, and then you can just flip over at any time with L and R. And just like most shooters, you also have your limited supply of bombs that you can also pick up. And you also have a super shot, which is limited use, and when you use it, then you gotta press a certain amount of buttons over and over again, and the more times you do it, then the longer the charge will last. And yeah, that's basically the gameplay. I mean, if you haven't played a shoot-em-up before, this is basically exactly like those, but only with psychedelic Japanese manliness. But before we move on, one thing I should mention is that every stage has like 3 sections to it, and at the end of each section you gotta fight a weird-ass boss. And the first boss of the game is like Thomas the Tank Engine in space, so it can't get any better than that. So now, as for the game's controls, well, they are very simplistic as you would expect for a shoot-em-up like this, so I'm not going to go over everything, but I'll say that it is responsive and it is pretty smooth. It's not slow and jittery or laggy, and also there doesn't seem to be very much slowdown in this game at all, so that's good. And yeah, everything is easy to figure out, so I don't want to hear any of this, well, how do you shoot things in this game? So let's get moving on to the game's graphics, and well, yeah, obviously this game is weird as shit looking, but you know, even for a weird as shit looking game like this on the PSP, I gotta be honest, I find this game looks pretty poor. I just find like the textures on like all like the enemy designs and like even your character design as well, like I just think they just look really cheaply made. It almost seems like that they just bought the graphic engine that Tamsoft used to make that shitty-ass Eternal Quest game. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too harsh. This game is not nearly as ugly looking as Eternal Quest on PS2, but I do find that this game, for Cho Aniki standards, I just don't think it just has the same charm as like the PS1 game, because that game just had a very unique art style that was just so out there that it had a lot of charm and it was a lot more memorable. Where this, I mean, do you think any of these like background characters are going to be very memorable to you when you look back on this game? Probably not. So it seems like that this game is like the discount version of Cho Aniki, which is kinda sad. But as much as I'm not a fan as like the in-game graphics, is that I actually do like the character art for like the two main characters. I think they're pretty well done and are kind of weird and funny looking. Like I said, I made fun of one of them for being like a buff version of Hatsune Miku, so I do kind of like that aspect of that. But aside from that, yeah, I would say the graphics in this game are pretty mediocre though. And now, as for the game's music, well, for a game like this, what kind of music would you expect it to have? I mean, Cho Aniki is just so out there that, like, you can literally put any genre of music into it and it would fit perfectly, because that's just how nonsensical the series is. And well, that's exactly right, because this game has a lot of weird genres mixed in together, where you got some, like, techno, you got some, like, jazz, and then you got some, like, just some weird other shit that sounds like a YouTube poop from, like, 2008. Like this song, for an example, I just think sounds hilarious to me. But yeah, I would say that the music in this game, I kind of like it for what it is. Like, it is kind of like goofy, and it does have some pretty cool background music, but it's just not very memorable. Like, it's not something I'm going to remember very well, although they still have that one song that played at the very first stage within the Cho Aniki game on PS1, so I thought that was kind of charming. But yeah, other than that though, I'd say it's decent. So now, if you want to go out and buy yourself a copy of this game, well, if you really want a physical of it, it's only the Japanese version that has one. And if you want to get a North American version, which has the really bad translation of Balzac, well, that can only be done with PSN. And of course, Sony has to make it difficult on their bullshit-ass website to try and find the price on this game. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like 15, 20 bucks. It's about there, I'm sure. Or maybe even 10. I don't even know, but it's somewhere around there. It's cheap. So now, what is my overall thoughts on Cho Aniki Zero? Is that... Well, before I get into this one, I'm gonna make a little bit of a recap of what I said about the first game I played. So, the first Cho Aniki game, I actually did kind of like it for what it was. I mean, it wasn't like the most amazing shoot 'em up I ever played, but I thought it was very playable and it was kind of decent. And also, it was just so weird as shit that you just kind of wanted to keep playing more of it because you just wanted to see exactly how weird does this game go. Well, with Cho Aniki Zero, on the other hand, well, unfortunately, it's very average and is kinda not really great. It's not horrible or unplayable or anything like that, but it's just so okay. So having a game in such a series like this being okay is unacceptable. Like, for such a weird game like this, it has to be legendary, just like all the other ones in the series. But no, it's just okay. So because of that, I just feel like this game just feels very watered down compared to the other ones. And one thing that I have yet to explain about this game that really pisses me off is that this is one of those shoot 'em ups that you have two difficulties, easy and normal. And of course, when you play on easy mode, you can only play the first 3 levels, which I think is bullshit. Now, I will admit, I'm not the greatest at shoot 'em ups ever, but the thing is though, there are times where I just feel like wanting to play a game on easy because I just want to have a chill and relaxing time. But if I can only play like half the game on easy mode, then what's the point? That's such a cock tease. Like, what's even the point of even having it there at all? It's such a half-assed bullshit. And another thing that's annoying too is that after every section of the game, whenever you beat one of these mini bosses and then you die and get a game over, you have to start all the way back at the very beginning of that level, which is just really annoying and tedious. And of course, whenever you get a game over, you have to look at this awkward as shit scene, and you gotta like tap like the X button to continue, which I do think that part of it is kind of unique, but the thing that I hate about it is that you have to look at this for so long before you can even try to get a chance to continue. It's like, okay, yes, I've seen this like 5 fucking times, I get it. So yes, Cho Aniki 0 is a very mediocre game in the series. Yes, I actually like the PS1 game a lot more. I would still recommend that one to more people, mostly just to get a reaction out of them. Where this one, like I said earlier, it almost feels like the discount version of Cho Aniki. And the only thing that's really memorable about it for me was the fact that there's a character named Balzac in the translated version, and the fact that there's a buff Miku character. Other than that, it really doesn't offer anything much else. Well, I'm gonna end it here because do I really want to go on for like half an hour talking about a shoot 'em up that's just okay at best? Nah, I'm good. So, with that said, thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.
Zero! Now, plane zero!